Welcome to Relationship Mastery, a podcast for those who want to learn how to master the art of creating happy, healthy, and loving relationships. Please join me, Adey-Jones, and my co-host, Barry Selby, each Tuesday at 1 p.m. Pacific for a lively and informative conversation on everything to do with relationships. Hello again, Barry. How are you?
Hello again, Del.
I think we should record our pre-show conversations. They're quite funny.
That's true.
Exactly. So today we're going to be talking about trust. I think we touched on it last episode, and we thought it'd be a great subject to really dive into. I always consider it one of the most important elements of a relationship. You know, we often think we've got to, love our partners. And I remember my ex-therapist, when I was in therapy, I shouldn't say ex, but my therapist when I was in therapy, saying to me, relationships need more than love. And it's so true. And we often overlook that. We keep thinking, but we love them. But, to me, the foundation of a great relationship is obviously love, trust, and respect. So we'll do another show on respect, because sometimes people misunderstand what I mean when I say respect. But for today, let's talk about trust. So
Indeed. Before we get into that, though, I want to add another one to your list of shows we're doing in the future, which is on communication.
Ooh, yes, absolutely.
Because that's going to be a topic we should talk about. So if you're watching this, listen to this podcast, make sure you tune in when we do that one, because it'll be very interesting as well.
Absolutely. Communication is key. So
I think the thing was, what your therapist had said, and it is such a clear reminder that love on its own, I'm sorry to say, is not enough. You can't love somebody enough to build trust.
Yeah.
That's not working with. You can, in fact, build enough trust to love somebody. That's, from that angle, it works, but it's not reciprocal. It doesn't work the other way around. So trust absolutely is a fundamental requirement for any sort of intimacy and communication and relationship, because we have relationships in quotes with everybody on the planet to one degree or another. But the one we want to bring in closest, it's almost like the more we trust, the closer we want to get with somebody. So trust is vital in this conversation. So I'm glad we're talking about it today.
Yeah, and I just want to pick up on what you just said then. It's not just in romantic relationships. Our show is Relationship Mastery, and it is about all sorts of relationships. And, as a mother, it's really important that we teach our children about trust. And we'll go into that a little bit later, but equally so, our relationships with in our careers or our workplace. We've got to have trust there, because, our boss has got to trust us, or if we're the boss, we've got to trust our employees. So it's just vital in any relationship, any healthy relationship is for me, one of the real foundations is trust. So, let's just, so do you have any personal stories about where your trust was violated, or how it made you feel, or anything like that?
Well, I want to throw another couple of examples outside of romantic relationship onto the table first, just to for people watching or listening to realize that you don't have to be in a relationship romantically to have this come up for you. Because I look at even retail experiences where either the product I bought wasn't what they purported it to be, or where the person selling me what they were selling wasn't authentic, or whoever they supposed them were to be. So trust is something very personal to each person, meaning that it is important to have it in relationship. However, it's really something you carry everywhere you go. So if you're noticing that you don't trust anybody, because some people have that choice, then there may be something you want to look at inside yourself, because you can say, well, it's all about their fault, it's all them. It's like, no, not necessarily. Really, to figure out where your own discomfort or challenge with having trust around you, because maybe you've had, and this is some people out there as well for romantic relationships, have had their trust violated when they're very young. Like, for example, I know you were talking about your experience and your history, not having a quote typical parental upbringing, that trust would be more challenging if, for example, for somebody else, for example, if their parent was an alcoholic, it'd be hard to trust the person when they were sober. Same as if the person was a workaholic and always away or traveled a lot. You don't trust their presence as much.
Yeah.
So trust has lots of little flavors to it. I don't just put that on the table first. So in terms of personal experiences, which I'm racking my brains for,
I
just to be transparent,
will sort of shuffle over there. Let's talk about more trust in general before I come on. No, geez.
I'm priming my own pump, so to speak. um, the thing with trust for me, and I'm really to be totally transparent on this. I'm looking back at most of my relationships, and almost most of the relationship I can reflect on and remember, it was me violating the trust in the relationship, not them.
Mm,
So
mm,
just to be totally transparent here, I'm like, because I didn't have any partners cheat on me. I didn't have any relationships, and I didn't cheat on them, by the way. But I trying to think of any relationship where, and I'm looking through the lens of people misrepresenting themselves.
mm,
And I know in a couple of relationships, I represented myself. Where and to be transparent, also to be honest, in one of those relationships, she didn't actually ask me. She presumed things about me that weren't true, and I didn't course correct her. I didn't give her feedback to say I wouldn't trust that.
mm,
What you think about me is inaccurate. And that was actually one of the biggest teachings I think I had in a relationship in that one, because there was so much misaligned values, and trust issues on both sides. And my trust of her was violated because I made assumptions about her. And this is the thing:
mhm,
trust is not necessarily about somebody lying to you. Oftentimes, in my experience, trust has been violated in relationships because people made assumptions about me. They made up stories about who I was without actually asking me first. So I could say, well, I'm fine. I didn't, you're not trusting me. It's not my problem because you didn't know, but you didn't ask me questions. Well, yeah. And
mhm,
we in relationship, we often don't ask all the detailed questions to know every single thing about the person. We make assumptions, and some of the assumptions we hope are true, and we build trust on top of that. And sometimes that assumption platform isn't as stable as we think it should be.
mm.
I know in the past I've been in those messes myself, so I know it's not easy to work through. And I'll leave it there for now.
Yeah.
You can tell a story. You get some other the patterns and stuff.
I'm just thinking, I mean, we did touch on last episode was that, agreements versus expectations and how you contribute
Yeah,
in relationships with that. Well, why don't
right.
we get it back to just sort of the lying part of
Okay.
how lying
Let's
can
get
go
let's get blatant about it, shall we?
really down to brass tacks here. So, yeah, for me, I have been in in a relationship where there was an incredible amount of deception. And when I found out about the deception, which was apparently over a very long period, we're talking years, and
Hmm.
it was an out and out lie, deliberate deception, and it was in the form of cheating, and always having cheated throughout the whole relationship, and
Right.
completely lied about it. And even when my instincts were telling me differently, like I was like, I don't know, this doesn't feel right, or this doesn't look right, or whatever it is, I'm being told I was crazy, I'm imagining it, I can't possibly be with somebody that doesn't trust me, all the manipulation to have me back down and not trust my wisdom, not trust that inner guidance. I mean, I say the word wisdom. Wisdom to me covers uh, sorry, the word I'm looking for is, intuition, a deep knowing, an
In the guidance.
yeah, exactly, inner guidance, deep
Yeah.
knowing. So I call it wisdom, but it is my deep knowing inside of me. And to go back a minute to, like you said, when I grew up, I was told not to trust myself. I was told to trust what my mother told me. And my instincts at that time, when I was younger, would be like, no, this is not right. This doesn't feel right, or whatever it was. And my mother would override that and say, no, 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 you're being oversensitive. You're making things up. It's not like that. Or other ways of dismissing when I felt abused, or was in a situation that was abusive. And so what happened is I lost that. I mean, we're never disconnected from our wisdom. It's always there. It's always guiding.
Mm.
But I was taught to ignore that inner voice and to listen to my mother's voice. So same thing when I was in this long-term relationship, um, and I was being told, "You're crazy. You're oversensitive. there's nothing there. You're being suspicious, and threatening to leave me because of my suspicion. And trust me, I was the easiest going person on the planet. I mean,
Right.
my mother used to say to me, "You're Pollyanna. You just trust everybody." Because my mother didn't trust people, but I was very trusting as a child. I wanted, I didn't want to see the world in a good way, so I was a little Pollyanna-ish. But
Yeah.
but anyway, so my point is, when I came out of that relationship, it wasn't, I mean, yes, I felt so violated, and my trust was violated. But the worst part was that I didn't trust myself. I was like, how could I have believed those words when my intuition, my wisdom was saying, hey, wait a minute, this is not adding up. You can see what you can see. You can see the eye contact. You can see what you can see. And so for me, that violation of trust robbed me of ultimately my trust in myself for a short
Hmm.
time. For a short time. And this is another show we'll do, which is reconnecting to that inner wisdom, learning to differentiate between the personal thinking and the chatter that goes on in your head and that wisdom of guidance. But once I got that relationship straightened out, basically, and I knew
Yeah.
I could trust my instincts, trust my wisdom, then I am the most trusting person in the world again. Because I know
Hmm.
that I have that insurance. I have that internal alarm system that can pick up, it can smell a rat, it can smell alarm,
Exactly.
and it will let me know. So I'm actually unbelievably, I mean, people say to me, how could you trust so much after that much of a years and years and years long violation? And I'm like, because I know I know when my inner voice is telling me something now, and nobody arguing with me and saying, oh, you're imagining it, you're too sensitive, can ever talk me out of that. So that's a huge part of just trusting yourself, I think, is the way to
Absolutely.
trust others people.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, because I was just thinking, it's like, how many parents out there possibly can actually say they've never lied to their children?
Hmm.
It's like every parent does in some case. Whether it's about Santa Claus, or about the Tooth Fairy, or about that go to bed and you'll be fine in the morning sort of thing. And we say things to our kids sometimes offhand without realizing we're not telling them the truth.
Oh,
So most of us were raised in families where lies happened, not bad ones, maybe white lies, maybe this sort of thing. Because I just realized, if you get kids listening to the podcast talking about Santa Claus and the Tooth Fairy, I'm lying. It's not true. They're real. They're real.
you just destroyed children.
Oh, boy. Lost some viewers now. That was bad. No, no. My point. To get back to the point. The thing is that we are all raised in families where lies happen. Not big ones necessarily, but in cases like yours, definitely some happen. Certain with certain family dynamics, there are big lies that happen too. But what you said is so key. Is really, and yes, we could do a whole show on this too. Having the understanding that we have an innate guidance system inside that will guide us true, as in it will be able to detect truth from lies. I remember being in a seminar years ago. We talk about how you can actually sense when you trust into that place. You get in auditory terms, you get like a ding or a clunk. It's like when something rings true for you. If you want to use an auditory term, you sort of hear it like clear as a bell. It goes, that feels true. It sounds true. But when it doesn't, it's this clunk. It's like, oh, that's not right, and intuitively that it's not true. And I've gotten pretty good at that skill myself, which is one reason I've had on my side of things a very good relationship. It's bad on the other side, I realize, as I shared earlier. But recognizing that it is true when you do have that skill or that gift um, tuned in. And when we trust it and listen to it, so the other part is not only is it got to be tuned in, it's also going to be listened to by us as well.
Mhm.
So what you said is so important about not listening to what's being told outside of us, but listening inside first for a barometer check, so to speak. And for me, that's been one of the biggest gifts to really guide my path in every relationship. Again, from business to social to retail to romantic, all of those are covered by the same rule, which is, basically to that own self be true kind of thing. Is that really interface with every relationship from who we are, because that's the one in all the relationships. So yeah, definitely a gift to learn that, please, to remember that part of ourselves.
Yeah, and absolutely. And just like you pointed out, learning to trust your own inner guidance system, which I always say it's in it's in my lower dantian, it's my seat of my soul, it's deep within me. And to
Mhm.
also, so to trust that when we're hearing outside, people that we're in relationship, however you define that relationship, to
Yeah.
listen to your inner guidance system above, what they're saying, if in fact you suspect they're lying. But even more important, to not get, um, because we all have this internal dialogue that we've often sort of, it's from our childhood. We'll have our parents' voice in our head, or we'll have whatever it is, all that sort of internal chatter we have, to really differentiate between what the brain is telling you and what your wisdom is telling you. Because
Yeah.
often people will start trusting what their brains are telling you. And that's, in fact, that's sort of coming from old patterns, habits, fear, fear of the future, or regret from the past, or it's so full of information it's telling you. But, we often say, don't trust that. And it's true, don't trust that type of thinking. But you can trust that really deep knowing, that wisdom has a much different flavor to it. A lot of my clients in the beginning will say, well, I can't tell where it's coming from. And I'm saying, if it's coming from this sort of jittery, fear based, should I, shouldn't I, all that sort of
Mhm.
energy, it's often coming from our brains that are beautiful computers that love to sort of categorize and seek out problems and anticipate things and all of those things. But the deep knowing in the moment, am I being lied to, is going to come from deep within you. It's a very different feeling. And to just
Yeah.
trust that. And the other one, I love what you said about the children. Oh my God. And you're so right. I used to tell my children that I mean, they still to this day, they'll say, Mum, you tell lies. And they're 30 and I'm like, oh God, what was the lie? First of the one was Halloween. Don't eat dark chocolate; it might have something bad in it. Because I used to steal their dark chocolate. But the second
Right.
one was I would tell them there were things called pool goblins that would only come out at pools to get children if they ever went out there without parents. Because I was just really wanting to make sure my kids didn't break through the barrier and get in the pool. So,
Mhm.
but back to the children thing, it is, you know, trust is the most important thing when it comes to our, as I say, all our relationships. But the same thing with our children is to be really mindful. I mean, okay, we can forgive the, not mention them again, but the those certain characters we know as children, but to really be impeccable with our word. If we want them to be honest with us, we have to be honest with them. I don't mean in a cruel way by any means, but there's a way to respond to a question with honesty and integrity that's inappropriate for a child's age. You don't have to
Yeah.
give them details that are too much for them, but to just simply say things like, take in an example of, say, a divorce, and you can simply say, yes, that we are having problems right now. We're trying to resolve them. We'll
Mhm.
keep you informed, and you let them know what's going on. You don't overburden them, and you just say, mum and dad are taking care of this, and we both love you. Nothing's going to change in your life as far as how we love and care for you. So
Right.
so it really is important. But again, I remember catching my son out in a big lie. Well, it wasn't that big. I mean, I was standing outside my friend's house and his car was there, and I was like, I thought he told me he was at his grandmother's house. So I called him on the cell phone and I said, where are you, sweetheart? And he goes, oh, I'm at grandma's house. And I'm like, oh, that's so funny because your car is right outside, your friend Julian's house. I mean, I was friends with the mother. So I'm like, that's really weird. And he's like, oh God, mum. And I had to give him the talk that, trust is, if you lie about the little things, it wasn't, I mean, to me, it was not just a white lie, it was a calculated lie. And I had to really say, that is like, it wasn't something that was that important to lie about. But what I'm trying to get to is he actually turned around and said to me, you know what, mum, when you, something like, you get really upset with me sometimes over something, so it was easier for me to lie. And I woke up when I heard,
Okay.
I really woke up and I went, wow, okay. and I made him a promise. I said, you know what? I love that you were able to tell me that. Doesn't mean that you should have lied, but I'm going to really look at my own behavior of how
Hmm.
safe I make it for you to tell me the truth.
Right.
So I think that is as equally an important part to this conversation is that when we freak out over things, other people might, I'm not saying it's the right thing to do, but might be afraid to tell us the truth of things. So they minimize or they hide or they whatever. And so that's, I just wanted to bring that up because it, to me, it taught me to just absolutely dial it back, even if I didn't like hearing what I was hearing, that it was really important that I heard it. And I can honestly say after that point, my children and I have had such an honest, I mean, I hear things sometimes where I'm like, really? Did you really need to tell me that? you know? But
Too much information. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And we laugh about it, but it is so important. We build trust by being honest, and we build trust by allowing other people to be honest with us. So,
Absolutely. That is such a gift. And that is interesting. I've said this before so many times in friendships about, don't sugarcoat it. Tell me the truth. What's real for you? What's authentic for you? What is your honesty?
mhm,
Because then there's nothing to hide.
mhm,
And in dating, I've had a conversation with so many clients about this, about, trying to present a certain persona like in your profile, and when you meet them, the problem with that is you have to keep spinning the plates of that mystery or that deceit for a long time. And once in a while, you're going to make a mistake and blurt out the truth by mistake. And then what's going to happen? So
exactly.
better off start from the beginning with your truth, like your real age, your real height, current pictures in the dating apps. But also when you're out meeting somebody, don't say you like something when you know you don't, because in 3 years, you're going to hate this person because they still say you should like this stuff because you told him you did,
Yeah.
that sort of thing. So one of these things is definitely being authentic and true from the beginning. Absolutely recommended. Second part is, because you hinted this a couple of times along the way, is it is possible to rebuild trust, because a lot of times in trust, one of the issues is once trust is gone, it's gone. There's no way back, it seems like.
Hmm.
But there's one way back that I know about, and this is one of the things I learned again a long time ago, is that one of the reasons we lose trust with somebody is we don't feel like we can trust their word or what they're saying, what they're doing as being accurate. So the way to rebuild it is to work the other way, which means the other person, or if you're in the situation, you're the person, is to start demonstrating trustability by keeping agreements with them. So if you say you're going to be there at a certain time, show up on time.
Hmm.
If you say you're not going to make it, tell them you're not going to make it. Like, honor your word and keep that demonstration consistently, because ultimately, as you keep doing that, you'll build more trust, and they start to recognize that you're being real again. Now, a couple of other things. Agreement keeping, this is a business thing I learned a long time ago. With agreements, there's 3 or 4 aspects. Remember which ones are which. But agreement keeping, first of all, when you make agreements, keep them. Simple as that. If you make an agreement, keep it. The second one is, when you are being asked to make agreements, be willing to say no.
Hmm.
We oftentimes overcommit and say yes to too many things, then we end up juggling too many things, and there's not enough hours in the day. So say no to things that don't work for you, so you can be again honest and authentic, because trustability is not just about saying yes, it can be about saying no as well. It's another part of it. Another piece, for many of us, we say yes to things that we forget we said yes to, and then we're in trouble. So in the old days, we'd say write them down in your day planner, back in the days of day planners. But nowadays with smartphones, you can stick it in your calendar. So if you said you're going to be there, and I do it all the time. One of my friends who's a business coach, David Allen, talks about, he has the Getting Things Done program. He says that basically people ask him, why do you write things down in his calendar? So you can remember them? He said, no, so I can forget them. Because when they're in the calendar, they'll remind him. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you have agreements, make note of them so you won't forget them. So if you said you can do something at certain times of the day or certain times of the week, put them in your calendar. The things you said you would do them.
Hmm.
The other part is, and this is the third part, which is really the not last resort, but it's the most challenging one, is if you don't think you can keep the agreement, be willing to reach out ahead of that time of the agreement and renegotiate.
Yeah. Yeah.
So somebody, you'll be someone at 10 o'clock and you know you can't make it. Don't call them at 5 to 10 and say you can't make it. Call them the day before or a week before and say, I know I said I'm going to meet you that time. Can we reschedule? I can't make it there.
Yeah.
It's okay to be honest that way. But that's
Yeah.
the thing. Trust has to be built. That, you get skills for trustability.
No, absolutely. And again, it's like trust is no, exactly, being trustworthy, being dependable, all of these things. And often, I mean, I don't know if you ever heard it, that there was an expression in the UK when I lived there that was, it was called, don't tell her her arse looks fat in the dress once she's bought it, which means
If you value your life.
basically means, you know, if somebody asks you your opinion when something's a done deal, you can sort of, you don't have to say no, you look awful in it, your ass looks fat, how could you ever bought that dress, don't, you can't return it. I mean,
Right.
so I think you can be gentle with certain things, but you don't have to be an out and out liar, but you can just be gentle. It's like sometimes I think to
Soften
myself,
the blow.
sorry,
Yeah.
I,
Soften the blow.
well, mean it, because I mean, we all have our own thinking. We're all having our own thoughts. So our
Right.
thoughts that, somebody's ass might look fat in a dress might just be our opinion. Somebody else could be looking somewhere else and saying, oh God, that color looks great on you. So I do think you can be, we don't always have to disperse our wisdom and our opinions. I think we can be, discerning about what we say or not say. So
Yes,
it's
indeed.
different to lying. And I think that, often when people lie, it's to manipulate and to get their way, which to me is one of the most disrespectful things you could ever do, is to put
Yes.
your needs and desires above somebody else's right to choose how they live. So for me,
Hmm.
lying is a really, it's something and I've lied in my past. Of course I have. I mean, I'm not pretending I haven't. And for anybody out there that I have hurt, any previous boyfriends by my lies, I'm publicly apologizing right now. But uh, but that was when I was much, much younger and much more effed up. So I try not to lie by any means now. Um,
Hmm.
because again, as I said, it's how dare I choose to manipulate somebody else's reality so I can, get a need met or whatever it is. So I firmly am in disagreement about that. And I used to, my ex-husband was Italian, and he had a mother who was Italian, who was
Yes.
very, very strong personality. I love her dearly now, but when we were married, she was very sort of like, I want you to come on this day, and she goes, you be here, like say next Saturday, and I would know that we had tickets to a concert next Saturday, so I would start to say, oh, that's really lovely, but we can't, and I would get like kicked under the table and told to be quiet, and I would say, I don't understand that because we know we're not going to be here, and my ex-husband would say, it's better to lie to her and not disappoint her and then say we're sick the day before. And I'd be like, how does that make sense? You've led
Right.
her to believe for a week that we're coming. She's going to prepare food like any good Italian mother does, like 3 days prior to your visit. And I would say, I don't understand why you can't just say, we can't make it. We'd love to, but we've got prior arrangements. And that always blew me away, that justification of manipulating the truth to supposedly save somebody from hurt. So, and all that does is if people keep cancelling the day before, then that's not going to build trust either. So it's a very interesting dynamic.
Well, basically, trust goes out the window. And the thing is, I think some people do, in fact, lie to somebody because they're worried about losing that person's approval.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
It's not about saving the other person; it's about saving themselves. It's a
Yeah.
selfish act.
Yeah. Exactly.
My honesty, as much as it can sound scary, is the best policy ultimately.
Yeah. I remember listening to, I can't remember his name now. He was a drummer for a band. Think I'm admitting here, I think I was watching Intervention with Celebrities or something like that years ago, and it was a drummer in I can't remember the name of the band, Motley Crue or something like that, and he
Hmm.
said, "I never lie because I'm so high most of the time I forget what I've lied about, and I always get caught out." So he said,
There you go. Exactly.
because I'm the most honest person on earth. He said, because I can't keep tab of all my lies.
Exactly. That's the thing. Honesty is easy because you don't have to worry about what you forgot because you remember. It's like the truth is the truth for
Exactly.
you. When you speak the truth, you don't have to worry about did I say this, did I say that? No, you know what you said. So much easier.
Exactly. Well, I think that's a great note to end on there. So,
Yes,
hey,
indeed.
that was a quick half hour there, Barry. So,
Was yeah.
we will see each other next week, and I think we should do communication next week.
Oh yeah, that'll be fun.
Okay. All right. Well, have a fabulous week, everybody. I'll see you next week.
Take care of yourselves. See you soon.
Bye bye.
Bye. We trust you enjoyed this episode and invite you to share this with your friends and loved ones. In fact, please subscribe to our Relationship Mastery podcast. That way you'll get each new episode, fresh and shiny, as soon as it is released. We'd love to hear from you as well. So go ahead and enter your questions and comments at relationshipmastery.show. Take good care. We will connect with you in our next episode of Relationship Mastery.